We are now 256 days away from the midterms. Today, the president went down to Georgia. It was supposed to be part of his mini tour to talk about, you guessed it, affordability. But the state has been in his administration's crosshairs for very, very different reasons. Last month, if you recall, the FBI seized ballots from the 2020 election in Fulton County. The county has taken the DOJ to court over it. Well, today, the Georgia State Election Board wrapped up a meeting, and one member said it looks like it's the state board versus Fulton County. The board decided to hire a private investigator to report them, but it is not exactly clear what that person is actually going to investigate. Usually the person who would look into voting issues is Georgia's Secretary of State, Brad Raffensperger. Instead, the board subpoenaed Raffensperger to testify about some of these alleged issues at its next meeting. And while Trump's speech in Georgia was advertised as an affordability speech, as I mentioned, of course, he weighed in on this very issue, the state's elections.
By the way, did you see they raided the Fulton County place, storage house? And now the Democrats have hired a massive team of lawyers. They have the ballots. That should be no problem, right? They have the ballots. FBI came in and raided. They found plenty of stuff. And now they have the ballots. And the Democrats are fighting like hell, and I think it goes before a judge tomorrow, to not let anybody see the ballots. Why don't they want them to see the ballots after all these years? You know why they don't want? Because they cheated, that's why. They've taken the ballots, they have them now after years. They got an order from the court, signed order from a very respected judge, and now they're trying to stop anybody from looking. You know why? Because they cheated like dogs.
Reminder, there's no evidence for the president's claims that any Democrats cheated. And by the way, Trump's speech today was in the city of Rome, which is part of the district Marjorie Taylor Greene used to represent. Those two had a massive falling out over the release of the Epstein files, I wanted to remind you. And that takes us to the United Kingdom, where today, former Prince Andrew was arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. Andrew has long been linked, of course, to Jeffrey Epstein, and his name popped up repeatedly in the newly released files. While we do not know exactly what misconduct is being investigated, we do know that earlier this month, London authorities were investigating claims that Andrew sent Epstein confidential trade information. Andrew was the UK's trade envoy from 2001 until 2011. MS Now has reached out to his spokesperson for comment. He has long denied any wrongdoing in connection with his friendship with Epstein. The palace released a statement from the king pledging full support for the authorities, quoting, "Let me state clearly, the law must take its course." All right, now let's get smarter with the help of our leadoff panel tonight. Peter Baker joins us, chief White House correspondent for the New York Times, Mark Leibovich, staff writer for The Atlantic, and Greg Bluestein, political reporter for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution and MS Now political contributor. All right, Greg, let's obviously start in your home state. The president's speech today, you were there. What stood out?
Yeah, look, I would say this has given me flashbacks to 2020, but in reality, this has been the through line for Trump every stop he's made in Georgia, where he can't help but continue his fixation, his obsession with falsely claiming his 2020 defeat was the result of widespread election fraud. And this is, of course, coming at a time when Republicans in Georgia are increasingly worried about their chances of defeating Democratic Senator Jon Ossoff and keeping the governor's mansion in GOP hands. So what we saw again today was a return to the same election fraud lies that the president has been repeating for the last 6 years, every stop in Georgia.
Who are the people in that crowd? And are they there cheering on what he's saying? Because theoretically, these are the people literally who voted for Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, Stephanie, it's interesting because the people in this crowd were there more for Donald Trump than anyone else. Some of them got there at 5 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning. They were waiting in line. I interviewed about a dozen or so as they walked through the doors, asking them about other races, governor, Senate, Congress, and many of them were still undecided. They were just there to support the president. So, when it came to the feud with Marjorie Taylor Greene, they overwhelmingly took President Trump's side.
And quickly, I know I'm bombarding you. The state election board, what is the situation here? Are the board and Fulton County on opposite sides?
Yeah, what the state election board is doing is it's taking baby steps towards what Democrats and voting rights advocates have long feared, which is a state takeover of Georgia's most populous county and one of Georgia's biggest left-leaning bastions. And, they haven't taken a big step towards that yet, but what they're doing is they're taking baby steps. And there's a 3-member pro-Trump majority on that board. And 2 of those members have said pretty explicitly that this takeover is on the radar.
All right, Mark, I want to play for you what the president said specifically about mail-in voting today. Watch this.
We don't want to have mail-in ballots where they're mailed in from all parts of the place. Mail-in ballots are crooked as hell. We're the only country in the world that use this type of mail-in ballot, the only country in the world. I'll tell you what, Republicans have to win this one. We'll never lose a race. For 50 years, we won't lose a race.
Only country in the world? For fact's sake, more than 24 other countries use mail-in voting, including Canada and the UK. Mark, a lot of Republicans in Congress know this is a very bad idea because a whole lot of their voters use mail-in voting, including Donald Trump himself.
Yeah, I mean, these are a lot of Republicans everywhere, not just in Congress. I mean, the layers of the layers of things that elected Republicans, would be cringing about tonight are pretty long and high here. Because, I mean, first of all, the idea that he was going to focus on affordability in a state that he's obsessed with all kinds of peripheral things and peripheral figures about is kind of laughable, especially given, I think Greg can correct me on this, but didn't he actually do an event in Rome in 2020 during the Senate runoff where he was going to sort of campaign for, I guess it was David Perdue and was it Kelly Loeffler, right?
Exactly.
And he didn't say a word about them. He just kept sort of litigating his own dispute of the election. Anyway, there was that. And then like mail-in, and this is like the mail-in ballot, the mail-in voting hobby horse has been like this obsession of his. Also, it's something that so many Republicans have told him to just back off of, because all you're going to do is dissuade your own voters from voting in a way that is extremely popular from people across the spectrum. So anyway, destructive on many levels. You can see why a lot of people would just be shaking their heads in the Republican Party.
Okay, well, I was shaking my head with this one today, Peter. A huge banner of Trump's face went up hung right outside the Justice Department. And this is the same Justice Department that seized 2020 ballots and is looking into Trump's election grievances. Make sense of this for us.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen these banners on other buildings in Washington. The Labor Department famously had one for quite a while. But it's really different to do it at the Justice Department because, for the very reason you're talking about, Justice Department is not supposed to be a partisan entity. It's supposed to be a dispenser of neutral justice, right? And it's not supposed to be the president's personal political instrument. And yet you put that banner up there, and of course, that's what it looks like. You're advertising the Justice Department as if it is an arm of the Trump campaign. And it's part of his, of course, very widespread spree of self-aggrandizement. His picture is going up all over the place. His name is being blazoned on buildings. He's, renaming a whole class of battleships after himself. He's trying to strong-arm New York and, renaming Penn Station. He wants Washington to name Dulles Airport after him. All of this is about power, though. It's not just about vanity, although obviously that's part of it. This is a president who has admitted that he has narcissistic tendencies. But it's about power, because the more you see his face, the more you see his name, the more you see him everywhere at all times, the more power he thinks accrues to him, because he is the inescapable force in American life.
All right, new topic, Peter. Ex-Prince Andrew. This is a former member of the royal family, arrested now, seemingly in connection with the Epstein files. This seems massive.
It's quite something. Look, the tentacles of this scandal have been extraordinary, right? This is a one-stop shopping kind of Me Too movement, all in this one batch of emails and texts and documents that have come out. It's now taken down people from all the way from California all the way to Norway. Professors have lost their jobs. People have had to lose their positions at major companies. Criminal investigations are being launched. Everywhere, it seemed like, by the way, except in Washington, where the president of the United States' name shows up plenty of times thousands of times in these documents, and there doesn't seem to be any particular consequence to him.